Alright, so now let's dive into our spec maps. I'm going to go into this channel, copy and paste. Let's grab everything in this channel that we've done so far and duplicate it. I'm going to call it spec dev. So this is a lot like Photoshop in the sense that you can copy the quote-unquote folder and then boom, we have everything we need. So I'm going to do a quick luminance top of everything. Very handy. And from here we're just going to slowly but surely convert everything. So the first thing I want to do is this shoulder pad. So with this breakup, we want to increase this just slightly. So there's a couple ways we can do it. We can just go back in here to the levels and crank it up. But I don't want it too much because it's going to start feeling like metal or concrete because this texture is concrete. So I want to be very conservative with it. And for this crackling detail, I want to invert this. Crank it up and then take this invert off. Like so. And then the levels, I want to get more out of it. Like that. And that's going to read really nicely. And then below that, I'm going to increase the levels of this leather. Because I want it to be shiny. But not too shiny. And I want to have some nice breakup. Feels pretty good. Same thing for this base leather here. So this I want it to be quite a bit darker because it's that rawhide leather, so it's not going to be very specular. It's going to be very shiny. And there's our spec maps for the shoulder pad. So I'm going to cache this. I think we're done with that. And moving on. So now we have this black shell leather. And so let's look at this for a second. So it's got a little bit of specular in it, which is, it's okay. And we want to darken in the crevices, which is what it's kind of doing. So let's help it along a bit. Something like that. That's going to read really nicely. And this breakup is going to be okay. That's going to be a little serendipitous for us. So I'm going to leave that. Obviously, if you don't want that breakup, we can just mask it out and re-level it with a new level adjustment inside, but I'm happy with that because I know it's kind of what I want. So I'm going to cache this layer and move on to the red straps. So the embroidery. So I actually want this embroidery to be colored because I want to get the color of the speck in the embroidery to be very saturated to get that gold feeling, which we obviously can't do with this luminosity on top. So what I'm going to do is take this luminosity off for a second. And as you can see, it's only affecting everything that has color. So really, we didn't need it for this shoulder pad. So I'm going to leave it off for a second, and I'm going to go in and do selective luminosities. So this red strap here, I'm going to do a simple contrast. And I'm going to bring the value up. Like so. And then for the crackling detail, same thing, invert it. Multiply. I'm going to delete this invert. And I'm going to increase the levels. So we get a little bit more read out of it. And there we go. So the broad patchiness is going to be really nice for broad breakup. And we're going to get the gold, which is working really nicely. And that's going to really pop and give that kind of really rich, expensive feel on that thread. So I'm happy with that. We're going to cache this layer. So the spec map and displacement maps for this stuff is going to be relatively easy because we have set it up so well in the color maps. Converting everything is going to be pretty simple and straightforward. So for this leather, I'm going to do a luminosity again. So in retrospect, I may not even use this luminosity because I'm just going through systematically and adding it to the pieces that I need. However, in here, I'm going to do a levels on top of everything. And as you can see, it's only affecting the purple leather, which is what I want. And I'm going to do a luminosity here as well. And that leather feels pretty good. It's not going to be overly shiny. I'm going to cache that layer. And last but not least, we're going to go with the gold. So the Elvish runes, like I said before, I want it to be inverted. Mask it out. And I'm going to crank it up. It's going to be pure black. And as for the gold, I want the stainless steel to show up even stronger. Actually, I'm going to copy and paste it and do it even stronger than that. Like so. And then I'm going to do a saturation. Top of all this, because I want this to be very gold. And I want to match this gold, which is going that more red, less green. So I'm going to do a color balance and take some of that green out there. So these are going to be my spec maps. So I'm done. So this gold is going to read really nicely with that colored specularity. We don't typically use colored specs, that's more for games, but when we're getting something like iridescence, like oil streaking iridescence on an engine, or very specific materials, we will employ colored specular maps to aid that along. So it's not out of the question. And I'm going to cache this layer. So right there and there in 10 minutes we have very, very decent spec maps. That we're done with. And there you go. So I'm going to end this demo. In the next demo we're going to do the same process but converting these to displacement maps.